Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Time Out with Derek and Joe. For Joe Azzalina, I am Derek and O. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. And Joe, we have finally made it to the end of football season and the Super Bowl.
Yes, Derek, we have. And this episode will be featuring two special guests. And I think it's going to be really entertaining to see two different sides of points of view from a Tampa Bay Bucks fan. And one of my friends growing up was a huge Chiefs fan and still is to this day. So it'll be interesting to see, like I said, both sides. And yeah, looking forward to this show, and hopefully our audience is as well as yourself, I'm sure.
And just so everyone knows, so you're not thrown off, we did have to do the interviews on different days. So
Correct. Stupid snow.
you're the second one you're going to see Joe disappear, but so don't be thrown off. But we'll start off.
All right, on the timeout here with Derek and Joe, we have special guest Kyle Messa, who we're happy to have him here tonight. He's a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. I'm going to give a few tidbits, and then I'm going to kick it to Kyle to introduce himself a little more. We spent all of our lives together in the classroom, on the recess yard, playing football, hanging out, playing baseball, and then soccer, where Kyle wrestled, good wrestler at Notre Dame, and played some soccer with me at Notre Dame. So we definitely had our good times back in high school. And I just have to say, I'm really happy you came on tonight, and we're really happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And Joey, for you in particular, it's great to see you, bud. It's been a long time after what you know, like you said, many years growing up together from kindergarten all the way up through senior year. Family's good, bud. Everybody doing well?
Yeah, everybody's doing well. Yeah, everybody's healthy,
So much-
and yeah, and you too. I assume that I see your sister once in a while in the Easton School District. I know
Yep.
she's good too, so that's good to hear. And
Yep.
so, and your son's a hockey player, I hear. That's awesome.
Yeah, he is majorly into it. He plays for the Junior Phantoms. So he's only 6, so he plays for the Mites, but he's doing pretty well, and he plays for Parkland as well. So he's on 2 different teams. And my little girl's a dance princess. She likes to dance and cheer, and she's taking some musical theater too. So
Busy.
my wife and I are constantly running there where, you know, it makes for
Never a dull moment.
That's it.
Wow. Oh man. Well, we're gonna get into talking about this Super Bowl, and we have to ask you, as you're a huge Chiefs fan, what are the keys to this game on Sunday night, and maybe talk about some key matchups that you think are going to be very important.
Yeah, so I'll go the negatives for Kansas City first. So the Chiefs are going into the game with 4 backups along the offensive line, which is a really big deal against a team with a front 4 like Tampa has. So for me, the entire game is going to be there. The formula to beat Mahomes has been, the Chargers have done the best with it consistently, is you rush 4, you drop 7, and you get pressure with that 4. With both tackles and both guards out for Kansas City, that's the scary part. Tampa's front 4 is formidable as is, and then throw in the fact that we've got, you know, a bunch of backups up front, that can get a little sticky. So if Tampa Bay is going to win, they're going to have to win there, and on the other side of the ball, they have to score because Mahomes is eventually going to get his. But that's a real big one. And then on the defensive side of the ball for Kansas City, an area where they tend to be vulnerable is their linebackers aren't so great, especially having to cover tight ends and backs in space. So that's another area where Tampa should, in theory, be able to move the ball. You know, either be it hitting Jones out of the backfield or Gronk, you know, when he gets matched up against Anthony Hitchens. But aside from that, I got to be honest, I like the matchup a lot for Kansas City. I really do.
Now, do you think an interesting point you said about the linemen? I didn't realize that, and that's something that I'm sure casual fans don't really think about, but because everybody's thinking Brady, Mahomes, we all hear about that, right, on Sports Center or whatever you listen to and watch. But I have to ask you though, watching a guy like Tyreek Hill, would you call him the X factor in the game? And if not, who would you say would be on Kansas City's side? And also, do you have a big reason for concern other than a lineman for the Chiefs?
Would I consider Ty the X factor? I wouldn't say necessarily so, because I think Ty is such a known commodity at this point. He's going to demand attention. In the first game, I think he had 200 and some odd yards receiving at halftime against Tampa. Tampa tried to play one-on-one cover 3, and the Chiefs just said thank you and roasted them time and time again. So that won't happen this time. I think he's going to get doubled a lot. He'll get bracketed a lot. So, that'll hopefully open things up for Travis Kelce, who, when you have an Hall of Fame tight end on the inside that like Kansas City does, that's a nightmare as well. If I were to pick an X factor, and this is a weird one to go with because he's actually technically not even fully 100% to play, but Sammy Watkins should be healthy for this game. And you can't double everyone. You can't bracket everyone. And he's a hell of a third option to have on the other side when, Kelce and Hill are drawing so much attention. So, he's basically never healthy, but when he is, he's a nice guy to have out there. He made probably the biggest, the tie catch, I guess, would be the biggest catch last year. But when he roasted Richard Sherman there on the go-ahead touchdown drive last year, that was a big play. So having Sammy back, he would be the X factor for me, just as a guy that a lot of people tend to forget that he's there because he's always hurt. But not too bad of a third option.
Now, Kyle, we obviously you just mentioned Sammy Watkins, but obviously you have Mahomes, you have Hill, Kelce are going to be the key contributors offensively. They're going to be going with. Who else is someone we may look for in order to make a bit of a contribution? Obviously, both backs are finally now healthy again. I don't know how much Le'Veon Bell will be involved in the game plan, but with the 250 plus yards by Hill in the first matchup, 80 yards for Kelce, who is another maybe smaller option that we see could be a big key?
Yeah, so Darrell Williams has had 2 really good playoff games for the Chiefs. He's technically the third running back behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's coming back from being banged up, and Le'Veon Bell, who may be cooked, hasn't really done a ton since the Chiefs got him on the cheap. But Darrell Williams has done pretty well when given a chance to run the ball. So, I don't know how much we'll see of that. It depends on how Tampa matches up and how they play it. But the weak spot on Tampa Bay's defense is the secondary, which is the strength of Kansas City. So if Mahomes has time to get rid of the ball, Tampa could have a long day trying to stop Kansas City's offense.
So I will say just real quick, a stat I did find that the Buccaneers, when it comes to short yardage offense, which is 2 and less, the Chiefs are 32nd in the NFL, and the Buccaneers are actually first in the NFL.
Yeah.
Do you think that if they aren't able to make those short yardage, do you think that could be a key factor, especially with what you said, with a lot of the offensive linemen being out?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a concern. I think what you'll see a lot when Kansas City does get in those situations is they're going to spread them out, and Andy runs a lot of misdirection. They tend to run Hill or Hardman. They'll do the fake jet sweep, or sometimes they actually give them the ball. Sometimes they'll come back to Kelce with that little funky shovel pass. They're so creative offensively. I think anytime, even though the numbers have been a little sketchy in that regard this year, if I need a yard, I'm pretty happy having 15 under center.
I think they're going to roll him out a lot. I've been thinking about that. I think they're going to take advantage of a little bit of not only his speed, but the way he's so smart about it. He's not only going to dunk off passes, but he also just finds the right person at the right time. He just seems to make plays. He's so athletic.
I think it's bizarre to say he doesn't get full credit for a lot of his tools, because he certainly does. But I think one thing that gets underrated with him is how smart he is. He's really difficult to confuse. And even when you do play it right defensively, he's got the athletic ability and the arm to beat you anyway, which is, it's such a luxury to have. It's you're feeling pretty good. Like I said, if you're in the
Yeah,
game and he's got a possession or two, which I'm sure is how New England felt for all those years with Brady, you're feeling
Sure.
pretty good about you.
True. I have to ask you, and this is probably, a difficult question because we've heard a lot about Bruce Arians and how he's come up as a coach. We know Andy Reid into the success he had in Philly and what he's done already in Kansas City. But who do you think, if there is, has a coaching advantage in this game?
I would think Kansas City. And I love Bruce Arians. I think he's one of the best, most brilliant offensive minds in the game. But I'm taking Andy Reid up against anyone not named Bill Belichick, for sure.
It's
yeah.
true.
Now,
I agree with that.
I mean, even if you see people like Todd Bowles, who has been around, and Byron Leftwich is an up and coming QB, or a QB coach, but I think you're right. I don't think there's any reason to go the other way. He's been there. He's won a Super Bowl, and Andy Reid's one of the best to do it. So
Yeah, and his record having 2 weeks to prepare for a game is pretty stellar, even dating back to his time with Philly. So,
mm.
yeah, even with the lineman out, you kind of expect he and Bieniemy will cook something up to mitigate that, be it get the ball out fast or however they're going to play it. But trust Andy to get us in a good spot.
So speaking of trust, do we trust the Chiefs secondary here? I know the secondary's probably been one of the most shaky spots on their defense. Do we trust their secondary to match up with all the Bucs weapons? We know Mike Evans and Antonio Brown's probably going to be back. Chris Godwin, you mentioned Gronk earlier. Do we think that they'll be able to line up with them?
I think they can. They're going to have to is the answer, I guess, because Spagnuolo is going to send the house. He always does. He did the first game against Tampa, and they're going to trust their corners to lock up one-on-one. The Chiefs actually have a pretty decent secondary. Breland is pretty good. Obviously Tyrann Mathieu back there playing safety. They have one of the best kept secrets in the NFL. Their 4th-round pick this year, L'Jarius Sneed, is a player, and he made the all-rookie team. He probably should have been an all-pro or Pro Bowler. He just doesn't have the name recognition yet. But he's a sneaky good player that they can match up in the slot. And a huge deal is Juan Thornhill played the best game of his season against Buffalo. Second-year player who tore his ACL real late in the season last year. He wasn't a part of the playoff run and had a real rough go of it this year, working himself back into shape. The first game against Tampa, he got roasted on 2 big plays that got Tampa back in the game, basically, when Kansas City was threatening to run away with it. So, but he looked fantastic against Buffalo. So if he plays well, I'm actually feeling pretty good about the secondary. I just worry about, like I said, the linebackers being able to match up more so than the secondary.
So I didn't ask you this question, but I did read how when it comes to red zone defense, for those that don't know, that's inside the 20, the Chiefs are 32nd, and Tom Brady is 36 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in the red zone this year. What
Yeah.
needs to happen? Because people were saying, well, if they get in the red zone, it might be an automatic touchdown at this point. What needs to happen in the red zone in order for them to flip that script a little bit?
Yeah, they got to find a way. The luxury that they have, and they haven't taken advantage of it much this year, is teams need to score touchdowns to beat the Chiefs because the Chiefs, their offense is so good. And I think Arians is going to know that. You're going to see Tampa go for it a lot on 4th down, as they should. But yeah, I mean, anytime Kansas City can force a field goal in tight, that's a win, because you're trusting Mahomes to get 7 going the other way. So, as far as specifics, I'm not really sure. It's been a work in progress all year, but it's biggest game of the season. You got to find a way. Bend, don't break. That's kind of the way Kansas City plays D. They'll have to do it again.
I don't know if you guys heard this, but before I ask looks like our final question, I have to say that I heard a story about Patrick Mahomes in a game last year, and Tom Brady after the game. I think Brady won, or 2 years ago it might have been, but in a locker room situation, and Brady went up to him and said, "Listen, kid, you're going to have your moments." I'm thinking to myself, kind of cool, because Mahomes even said, flashing back now, he's in the Super Bowl against one of the best quarterbacks of all time. But he's also being talked about in the same way that Brady was talked about right after he won one or two. So I don't know. I just thought that was really interesting. And now he takes the field with one of the best of all time, but he's won a Super Bowl. So
it's
I mean,
it's a cool story,
intriguing.
and there's a lot of mutual respect there for sure. And for me, it's actually one of the things that makes me. I mean, Joey, I tend to not be optimistic with my teams because they don't usually. There's been a lot of heartbreak over the years, but I am pretty optimistic about this one, and I think not that the Chiefs lack for motivation, but the fact that it is Brady. Mahomes is a huge legacy guy, and he knows what's on the line here. And I think getting a chance to beat this particular guy on that stage for your second one by age 25, I expect him to come out and play real well.
Yes, I totally agree. I do. I will have to ask you now, as it like put your like broadcaster's hat on, if you will, right? What are your final thoughts and maybe an unbiased prediction?
I think Kansas City is the better team. I think the Chiefs are the best team in football. I do. The mantra for them all season has been run it back. A lot of guys took 1-year deals to stay. Mahomes, his big contract is structured in a way that they were able to extend Chris Jones. Run it back has been a big thing, and the entire season's been about going back to back with the team that they have. There's some areas for concern. Eric Fisher going down in the AFC title game is really big. Shaq Barrett had his way with Eric Fisher when Eric Fisher was on the field now, let alone a backup on Sunday. But I do think the Chiefs will win. I just think they're a better team. They won 27-24 in Tampa earlier this year in a game that really wasn't that close. Not that, you draw too much from that, because I guess the Saints waxed Tampa twice during the season, and then Tampa took them down in the playoffs. But if Brady throws 3 picks in this game, Tampa will not win this game. They
might lose by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, they tried to give that back to Green Bay last week, and that won't fly against Kansas City. So I do think the Chiefs will win. Kansas City's not in the business of blowing teams out, which is an odd thing. So I think it'll be close but comfortable. I'll go 31-24 Kansas City.
I've been saying that. I've been saying like a 7-point to 10-point game. I just feel, and I think Kansas City gets enough offense to just stymie the Buccaneers. I just don't think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is going to be able to hang. But yeah, that's a great prediction, though. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, and I'm crossing my fingers. I don't want to jinx it. But I just think they're the better team, and I'm oddly. And I guess at the end of the day, the best way to put it is, at the end of the day, the Kansas City Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, and no one else in the league does. So I'm always going to bet on that kid. With all due respect, I think this is Mahomes' time.
Yeah, and Bieniemy leaving is, or at least that's what's been speculated, that he's probably taking a job somewhere, a head coaching job. I know him and Mahomes are close. That's also been documented. You almost feel that 4 years with the guy, if I'm right about that. I think it was 4 to 5. I think it was. You're now looking at like he can leave Kansas City, but Mahomes can say, "Hey, coach, thanks for everything, because we just won 2 Super Bowls." Like, yeah, there's something to that. I feel like it's got to be a good feeling in there.
Bieniemy still being there as the OC is an interesting thing. I wouldn't have expected that to be the case. I'm certainly, as a selfish Chiefs fan, not sorry that it's so. But I would have expected him to get a head job somewhere for sure.
You kind of took my question, Joe. That was
I'm sorry,
my
Derek.
last question. No, that's all right. That was going to be my last or statement. Pitch the NFL on why he deserves to be a head coach, because they're the best offense in the league right now.
Yeah,
how does he not have a job is what is all around the NFL.
Yeah, I think the big thing that goes against him is that Andy calls the plays. And if you're looking for a reason not to hire the guy, that's probably the biggest thing, is that Andy is the play caller on Sundays. But if you talk to Andy, listen to what Andy says, listen to what Mahomes says. I mean, Mahomes loves the guy. He's a huge part of putting the game plans together during the week. Huge part. He just doesn't call the plays on Sunday, and it's bizarre. I mean, you're seeing the Eagles, as a matter of fact, just hired a guy who was not the primary play call. So
Mhm.
it's a really bizarre thing. But yeah, it's like I said, as a selfish Chiefs fan, I can't say that I'm sorry, but I know he wants to be a head guy somewhere, and that he'd have a ringing endorsement from the people in Kansas City for sure.
That is for sure.
We appreciate you very much for coming on, Kyle. Your unbiased opinion and your biased opinion. We appreciate all opinions. But for our Super Bowl preview, we thank you very much for coming on as our Kansas City Chiefs representative. And I'm sure I could say the same thing for Joe.
Yeah, guys,
Yes.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks a lot.
Go Chiefs, go.
Go Chiefs. Definitely pulling for him.
And we are back. Just so everyone knows, yet no, Joe didn't just disappear. Just so happens that we had to do these interviews on separate days, and Joe wasn't available when we are going to have our conversation with Leonard. So for our second guest, I do want to welcome Leonard to the show. Thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Derek. I appreciate you inviting me, and looking forward to talking some sports tonight.
Absolutely. And just so everyone knows, I know we tried to get a Buccaneers and a Chiefs fan. Leonard is a Dolphins fan, so we're not going to try to, pull the wool over everyone's eyes. So the questions will be based on the Bucs, but I did say we can absolutely branch out if we want to talk otherwise.
We got the same state, and ironically,
yes,
the last 2 years, I've actually left Super Bowl Sunday to travel to the Clearwater, Tampa area. So
very cool.
In a crazy way, it's, same state and, so close enough, right?
Yeah, close enough. Quick thoughts. Do you want Tua to be the guy there? I know there's a lot of talks about bringing other people in.
I want to win. I want them to win. What I saw of Tua at the end of last year, the last 4 or 5 games, some good stuff, great leadership. Like, he has it, but I mean, you got to be able to throw the deep ball in the NFL these days, and he just can't do it. So I want at this point for the Dolphins to go all in for Watson, trade Tua, the third pick and the 50th pick for Watson, and then go from there. Because to be 10-6 and to be in most of the games they lost, they got something going there, and they can't afford to have 1 or 2 more years like he had. But let's give the kid some credit, coming off a major hip injury, no preseason. Parker was out most of the year, but I mean he plays 8 games a year anyway, so Dolphins are getting 50% of his effort. So there's no reason to push the panic button yet. But if you have a chance to get Watson in his prime, especially since he's upset about in Houston right now, you go get him. So
yeah, absolutely, yeah, I 100% agree with, especially with that great defense they got going. They got so anyways, we will jump into the Super Bowl talk as we discussed earlier with Kyle, who is the Chiefs fan. Now we're going to talk about some Bucs. So Leonard, we'll start with what do we think the keys are to victory for the Buccaneers, or maybe some key matchups that we should be looking out for that hopefully may be in favor for the Buccaneers?
Well, it's no secret that the Chiefs' offensive line is pretty beat up. Eric Fisher tore his Achilles in the last game. That's a huge loss for them, just emotionally too. I mean, the guy's not going to play all next year. And and if you really look at the Bucs so far in the 3 previous playoff games, they have them very strong up front. And I think when you have a great defensive line and a makeshift offensive line, that is definitely something very important. I know the NFL is about throwing the ball over to creation. The last time the Chiefs and the Bucs matched up, I mean, Mahomes had an opportunity for an all-time NFL record. So in passing yards, so it's important to control that that line of scrimmage. But you can go back to every Super Bowl played before this. So I really feel that's a key matchup. It's obviously four guys. And if they can here's another thing too, is if they can apply pressure without bringing the blitz, that's going to play into some other things. So one of my key matchups is going to be linebacker Devin White, a stud, a
Yeah.
tremendous player, on Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is maybe, I don't know how many more years he's going to play, but he's going definitely making an effort to become one of the best tight ends of all time. And you have to match up with him. You have to contain him. 7-8 catches, 100 yards, maybe a contained job for them, but Devin White's going to have to do his job. So the defensive line plays into the matchup, because if they don't have to bring an extra guy for pressure, then it's going to allow Devin White to be able to do his thing and hopefully slow down, Travis Kelce.
I will say I do have the stat that the defensive coordinator Todd Bowles has blitzed on 39% of the pass plays in the regular season, which is the fifth highest in the NFL. And we certainly saw our share of it in the Packers game. So we'll see if they can just get the pressure, like you said, with just the front four. That would be a pretty key moving forward for the Buccaneers. Now, on the other side, what do we think may be some reasons for concern for the Buccaneers? Obviously, we just talked about what may be a concern for the Chiefs. What may be a concern for the Buccaneers, do we think?
Well, this goes back to a stat that I dug up today. So Brady has never led his team to a first quarter touchdown in the Super Bowls that he's been in. 9 of them he's been in so far. So Brady is historically a slow starter in these big games. It's kind of like it's a chess match, right? But the Chiefs, they're fast break. They're the NBA in the NFL, right? And when you look at the game earlier, I believe it was November 29th. When you look at a lot of the Chiefs games, look at the game last week. It was close. It was close. It wasn't close. So that's the concern, because if one thing leads to another, if you do blitz, like Todd Bowles blitzes over a third of the time, and those playmakers get out in space and you're up 14, 17, nothing, that's going to be a big problem. That's going to be a huge problem. So that's my concern, is that, Brady has historically started slow in Super Bowls. Obviously he's won 6 of them, so he's doing something right, but slow starts, Chiefs get up big, then the Bucs become one-dimensional, and things kind of roll from there. So that would be my concern, keeping the Chiefs at bay, especially early in the game.
Now, for the record, we didn't talk, but you're kind of feeding into the stats that I have here. First quarter point differential, Buccaneers are -12 this year, and Chiefs are +24. So
you know what that means?
If it's close,
you gotta have me on your show more often, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
But if it's close after the first quarter, I think that bodes well for the Buccaneers, as you said, but it could very well go the opposite way. But don't necessarily get scared, Buccaneers fans. It could turn back the other way pretty quickly, especially with Tom Brady there.
You mind if I back up for a second? There was something on here for the X Factor. I want to talk about the X Factor, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Ronald Jones II is a huge X Factor. I looked at some stats today. The last 3 games, he has 23 carries for 78 yards. Let's be real. You and I can trip for that much more per carry. It's like 3 yards or something like that. Now, the game against the Chiefs earlier in the year, 9 carries, 66 yards. Now, the reason why he was limited in carries was because the game got out of hand. I believe it was 27-10, I think, at one point. So he didn't have a lot of attempts, but he's the X factor, because if Brady can maintain, if the Chiefs don't get out way ahead and they can run him, that's going to also balance time of possession too. So again, it's funny how it all comes back to basic football. So I think Ronald Jones II is the X factor, on the Bucs side.
And that may run into our next question here. Now, obviously, the offense pretty much focuses around Tom Brady. It has for the whole season. And who are some other people we should maybe look out for to make an impact against that um, very suspect defense for the Chiefs?
Well, I mean, obviously, when you have Godwin and when you have Mike Evans, I mean, they're going to draw a lot of attention.
Mm,
And, you started to see this last game. Gronkowski came out of retirement. I feel like he's been pacing himself a lot, and he's going to have opportunities. They can't guard everybody. So if the Bucks can run the ball reasonably and they can get
yes.
Godwin, and Evans in space, they're going to have chances for Gronk. And also Drake, too, who's another. I mean, we forget how good of a tight end he is, too. So there's going to be opportunities. And when you look at, finally Brady getting his New England offense, the seams, the tight end throws 15, 20 yards, they really, plays like that are what's really going to bring those safeties up. And if that starts, Brady's, it's going to fall right into Brady's hands. So look for Gronk and potentially Brady to make some big impacts. They're kind of one player because they're going to, chances of them being on the field at the same time are pretty slim. But yeah, the tight end position for the Bucks are going to make a big impact.
Now, moving to the sidelines here, I mean, it's kind of an easy question when you think about which coach would you rather, which head coach at least, who has the coaching advantage. Andy Reid's been around or been in a lot more postseason games. He's 17-14 overall, whereas Bruce Arians is only 4-2 in the playoffs. But there are several coaches I know who are getting looks for head coaching jobs at Tampa Bay. Overall, who do we think has the coaching advantage going into the Super Bowl?
It's the Chiefs. Andy Reid's a lot more experienced. He's 26-5 coming off a bye, which this is a bye. Eric Bieniemy, let's be real. He should get a head coaching job. I have no idea why he's not head coach. And then you have Spagnuolo as defensive coordinator. I mean, that's those three. I mean, that's a pretty strong, you have Andy Reid, which obviously, the Philly fans in the area, got used to him over many years. He finally got a Super Bowl. The Chiefs fans and the team loves him. He's very endearing. Bieniemy has molded very well with that team. And Spags is just as a good defensive coach. So they have the coaching edge for sure. I don't think there's any question. I mean, Arians is 4-2. 3 of them are this year. So we have a very small sample.
Yeah.
And Arians he's a cocky guy. Like, you have to realize he's one of those people that'll just say, let's just do something, right? Andy Reid is very meticulous in his preparation, and that obviously goes all the way back to his days in San Francisco. So it's clearly the Chiefs. I don't even think there's any really question.
Yeah, and I guess if you look at even the coaching tree they're talking about of Andy Reid, that is, and I'm sure there's even some coaches who may even be on Tampa Bay who are from the Andy Reid coaching tree. He is one of the best, so should be very interesting if that comes into play. The if any coaching decisions ultimately come into play in this game. One concern you may say for the Buccaneers is that their secondary is a little suspect. They were able to bottle as much as you could bottle up Devontae Adams in the last game. Whether that was doubling, I can't be 100% sure, but tons of weapons for the Chiefs. Tyreek Hill, speeding bullet. You talked about earlier about Travis Kelce in the middle, and supposedly they're going to have both Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell. Don't know how much Le'Veon Bell is involved in the offense, but both running backs healthy, lots of weapons. How does the secondary line up against all those weapons? And is that another concern that we have to worry about for Tampa Bay?
I think anytime anyone plays the Chiefs, the secondary is always going to come under fire. One of the things that, again, putting pressure, getting that pressure up front, and then obviously with Mahomes, I mean, his stats under pressure this year are mind-boggling. I mean, he's not human. Okay, so I feel like, yes, the secondary is going to be under fire, but the two safeties are going to get a lot of work. And they're going to have to make, Bowles is going to have to make a decision early on is what do they do? I mean, do you put a spy? Do you try to shade one way? I mean, they're going to play a lot of zone. They have to play a lot of zone,
Yeah.
because you just cannot guard, you cannot defend those players, one-on-one. And Tyreek Hill, again, it's just, I've seen many plays this year being a Dolphins fan and being in that. I mean, they couldn't catch him. I mean, you think you have an angle, and before you know it, he's 30, 40 yards down the field. The Bills, very good defensive team, and they just couldn't catch those guys. So it's just really, I hate to say it, but it's going to take a little luck, in it. And again, if they can get some pressure up front, and at least get in Mahomes' way a little bit, maybe. But the safeties are going to be they're going to be busy, definitely for sure.
Now, do we think, we talked about it earlier, do we think that maybe it could have to do with Todd Bowles' game plan? We talked about how last week they kind of bottled down Devontae Adams a little bit and how they attacked Rodgers. They did a lot of blitzing in that game, but we talked about maybe they have to do some sort of coverage sacks in terms of if you can get the pressure with the front four and drop a lot back, maybe that's a key to potentially stopping all those weapons.
And you're really not going to stop them. They're going to score points.
Bottle them up.
But yeah, exactly. They're going to, last time Tyreek Hill had 200, we said 270 yards. I mean, they almost had, I think early in the fourth quarter, both Mahomes and Tyreek Hill had an opportunity to have the all-time passing yards in a game and the most receiving yards in a game in one game. So if a couple things go their way, you could have seen that November 29th. So, and ultimately it became a pretty close game in the end. But yeah, I mean, just again, 150 yards would be doing a heck of a job for Tyreek Hill, but make him catch the ball a lot. If he has 5 catches for 150 yards and a touchdown or 2, they're dead in the water. If it's 11 catches for 150 yards and you get to hit him 9 or 10 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's human nature. I mean, if the guy doesn't get hit real good, he's going to be real fresh in the fourth quarter. If they can somehow, be a little physical, but again, that's a slippery slope because you miss one tackle and it's a 70-yard touchdown.
And another stat to look out for is it could potentially be in the red zone. The Chiefs have the worst red zone defense, I guess. At 32nd, they give up a touchdown 76% of the time when you enter the red zone. And that could be the place that they look for someone like Kelsey or the Chiefs, I mean. So we'll have to see, like you said, it'll have to be bottling up. It won't be stopping, but maybe if the Buccaneers can hold on to the ball and keep them off the field, maybe we'll see where it goes. Ultimately, Leonard, that leads us to, well, I don't have to say unbiased. You're not a Buccaneers fan, but what are your final thoughts on the Super Bowl and ultimately, what do you think the prediction is as to who will win?
I thought about this a lot today, and there are stats that you can push the Chiefs away. There are stats you can push the Buccaneers way. The rematch AFC NFC is the AFC 6 and 7, and no AFC has ever beaten an NFC team twice in the same year. Obviously, Andy Reid's very good off of buys, but there's something about this Bucs team this year. They started 7-5. The last time they lost was to the Chiefs. They haven't lost a game since. They avoided, now you think about this, they avoided 3 interceptions in a half by Tom Brady. I didn't look it up, but I can guarantee you he's never thrown 3 interceptions in a half and ever won a playoff game. I'm sure of it. He hasn't lost that much. Okay, the guy's pretty good.
Right.
So you accomplished all that going up to Green Bay. Yes, there wasn't any fans really in the stands. A couple of them, I guess, maybe a third full or whatever. But I mean, they bottled Rodgers. I mean, here's the thing. they have a 4th down or 3rd down and they give Mahomes that much space that they did towards the end of the game, Mahomes is in the end zone. But I really feel like I got this feeling that Tom Brady just has this team believing. It's amazing what leadership can do. So I'm going to pick the Bucs to win 28-24. I'm also going to predict that the Chiefs will have the ball last and come up just a little bit short, at the very end. I think this will be a very, very exciting game. I think very similar to the ending, like back in 2008, technically, when Brady had the ball last and threw that long pass down to Randy Moss, and it didn't work out too well. So this is going to be a hell of a game when you really think about, and it's funny because Tony Romo at the end of the game, November 29th, said these teams are going to be in the Super Bowl. Where he said, what an amazing stat. I mean, obviously as a sportscaster, you just take a guess, right? But here we are, Tom Brady, first year in Tampa Bay, has him in the Super Bowl. And also too is Tampa Bay is playing at home. Did we forget to say that this is the first time that a team is playing at home? So they get to sleep in their own beds. They get to eat the food that they normally eat. They drive 15, 20 minutes to the stadium. This is going to be a home game for them. So that has to have some sort of advantage. So when you look at all the stats and you look at all the different things we can pull out, does home field advantage win it for him? I think it does. And I think Brady wins the 7th championship. I know a lot of people won't be too happy with that. But it's just amazing that just a little bit ago, 20 years ago or so, he's in a Super Bowl against the Rams and is an underdog. And I think a lot of people have the Bucs. I don't know what the line is. I don't bet, so I didn't look at the line, but I would say the Bucs are probably an underdog. So when's the last time was he an underdog? Probably 20 years ago. So I think Brady likes that. I think he feeds on it. And I think in the end, his leadership and the way that he has that team playing is going to be the difference.
Yeah, that's very good. I think they are, last I checked, 3-point underdogs. So I guess we'll see if it ends up making a difference. That is a very good point. I did forget to say that they are the first team to play in their home stadium in the Super Bowl. So we'll see if that ultimately makes a difference. But Leonard, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate all your insight. We hope to have you on again soon. I know I speak for Joe. We would love to have you on to talk.
I like mortgages, but I really like sports too. So thank God I have a day job, but I do enjoy talking sports and, definitely love the opportunity. So anytime, just send me a message and let me know what you want to talk about. And I'm sure we can get together.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Leonard. So we do want to thank both Kyle and Leonard for giving their opinions on who will win the Super Bowl. Different opinions on who will win, different reasonings. So we appreciate both of them coming on to talk to us. Again, Super Bowl 55 is going to be this Sunday, February 7th. At 6:30 on CBS. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo under at the helm.
Yes,
the Chiefs are and have been since I think it opened, a 3-point favorite. And the game we barely mentioned, but the game is at Raymond James Stadium, Joe, in Tampa Bay, Florida, this is the first Super Bowl that is going to be played at the home state or a home stadium of a team actually in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Quick thoughts. Do you think that is going to make any sort of a difference? Or, the game in, what was that, week 11 or 12 was played in Tampa Bay and they still lost. So do we think that makes any difference or?
Well, first off, I did look this up. There was a Super Bowl that was in the same state, but you're right. The stadium is definitely the same as what the Buccaneers have called home the whole year. I said this to you before. I think home field advantage usually is more to the fact of these teams are both good. Like, they're both really good. Some will argue the Chiefs are better. We're going to see that on Sunday if they are. But I think a lot of it's more about maybe not having to travel. They're not getting onto a plane. Does that really matter when you're in the locker room and right? Because you're both sharing the same field. There's only 20,000 allowed to be in the stadium on Super Bowl Sunday night. I'm going to say no. The Chiefs might be a bigger favorite if the game was anywhere else, Texas Stadium, throughout some stadiums, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it does not have that big of an effect on the game.
Yeah, and I guess that's something we'll have to find out. Kyle did mention how so the game in week 12 was 27-24, played at Raymond James Stadium, but Tampa Bay did score twice very late in the game, so it kind of was a little bit more of an uneven game. But that was, as Leonard pointed out, that was the last time the Buccaneers lost, was week 12 to the Chiefs.
I'm
So
sure
they
they
are
remembered
on a
it.
very
Yeah, I'm sure they remember
long
that.
win streak. So
Yeah.
for those looking for our predictions, don't worry. That video will be coming out on Saturday. So look out for that video on Saturday, and we'll do a quickie of our predictions for that for the Super Bowl. A fun thing, Joe. Are there any? Every year there are great commercials in the Super Bowl. Are there any companies that you look for every year to see what they come out with? I know I always look for the Budweiser commercials. They always try to get you in the feels a little bit. And are there any ones that you always look for? The fun ones, the
Yeah,
sad ones?
I mean, I think the ones that are creative. I think like some of the ones that we see on an everyday basis they throw in, but like I like to see the creative ones. Like I mean, the horses are a little annoying. I get a little annoyed with the horses. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing like a dog. Like dogs are man's best friend. Why can't we see a dog out there? No, but like some of them are interesting. I do enjoy the ones where it gets you to flash back to some of the players' younger years. I know there's been ones with yearbooks and ones with that type of deal. But I just look for that creativity and see what these companies can come up with in marketing and seeing that kids watch. Derek, this game goes on at 6:30. Kids are staying up for this game, even if you're not. Parents have parties. It's a big day. It's not just the game; it's the whole day leading up to it. It's Super Bowl Sunday. But I always say that halftime is going to be usually one of my things I enjoy watching. The game itself, of course, because I enjoy football, but that's always interesting. What could go wrong, as we've seen some stuff in the past go wrong with outfits. I won't go anywhere close to that, but just that type of deal. And but yeah, as far as commercials, I think like creativity for me is the word that pops into my head right away. And just to see like, you might have like maybe someone's running on the beach, but are they running to get to their long lost, companion, or are they running to get to like that beer? Because that's something that they would do, right? So, but no, it will be fun. Watch it with family and maybe some friends or whatever. But it'll be a fun day for football, and definitely.
Absolutely. For the record, price of a 30-second commercial in the Super Bowl this year is
I don't even want to know.
$5.5 million.
Oh my gosh.
So let's hope that they do
million.
something with these commercials.
Yeah, I'm sure
that's
there'll be a
very good
COVID one.
point.
I'm sure there'll be a COVID one out there somewhere.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure we're gonna see that. Hopefully a good taste. Hopefully a good taste commercial. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. Super Bowl is probably one of the very few, if any others, that all ranges of people are watching, and you gotta get something that's going to intrigue most of them. So
right, snacks and food and all that. And now we got the snowstorm out of the way. Thank God, Derek.
Yes, yep, absolutely.
As I celebrate my birthday with Domino's the other night because it was just crazy out there. But yeah, I'm happy that I know a lot of my family and friends, and hopefully your family and friends are safe. But we really endured a heck of a storm, and like I told Kyle earlier, we are not going back to school tomorrow again, so we might be out the whole week as of this point. So that's another craziness.
Well, that'll do it for our Super Bowl preview show. Again, our picks will be a very quick. I know we say quickie episodes sometimes. This will be a very quickie episode on Saturday when it comes out, our Super Bowl picks. We appreciate Kyle and Leonard both coming on. We hope you enjoyed listening to them as well. So, Joe, any last thoughts?
Just that, yeah, again, it was really good. a really good time. And sorry I missed Leonard, but I'll be excited to watch him. And excited that my buddy Kyle was able to come on. It was good to catch up with him, and appreciate Derek you to let him come on and just have a good time. And definitely it'll be good to warm up that hot stove in a little bit after the football actually over. We talked about it. It's almost, this is it, Super Bowl Sunday,
Yeah.
and then it's on to the bats and the balls, baby. So always love that sign of spring, which is coming hopefully by the groundhog, 6 weeks to spring. So we can all use it, Derek. We can all use it. 70-degree day and
Yep.
shorts and a t-shirt. I'm ready for it, man. But yeah, Saturday I'll be ready to go. Saturday afternoon I'll be itching to do another good show with you, and keep on listening to our faithful followers of the timeout with Derek and Joe.
Absolutely. And everyone knows the drill by now, but I will continue to let you know we're available on we're available on YouTube. Feel free to look us up, Timeout with Derek and Joe. All our old videos are up there and you can watch us on there. We're going to try to move away from putting the videos directly on Facebook. We want to get people involved on YouTube, listening on our podcast platforms. If you want to listen on your way to work, listen as you're stuck in traffic or as you're working out, whatever, throw us on. And we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. We're everywhere. Subscribe and you'll get notified when all of our videos come up. But as always, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Stay safe, everyone, and take care.